What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Press X Podcast, episode 118, your weekly podcast for gaming news and opinions coming at you each and every Monday. I am Kevin McManus, with me, Nick Hassell.
Hey, that is me.
Something exciting happened today.
Did it?
There's some animes that dropped.
Oh, yeah.
And there's one in particular I want to just start off by talking about, and that is the Persona 5 anime.
Oh, that
episode
one, yeah.
1 dropped. I don't want to go too crazy with, in-depth stuff, just general overview.
It's hard to go in depth for 24 minutes, but
That's true. How'd you feel about it?
Really liked it. I like that it's more serious is an easy word to use, but it's not. Obviously, 4 is kind of lighthearted in both of its golden and original animations that they did. This one is a lot more sleek. It's a lot more artistic so far, and it's a lot more just like hardline, straight to the punch sort of thing, and I like that so far, and it fits the game and the mood of the game, so it seems to work so far. I think they packed a lot into one episode, which I'm glad, because trying to reduce a 120-hour experience into basically 12 hours by the time 24 episodes get through, kind of difficult. And there's a lot of narrative in this game, so I think they're hitting all the high points so far. I didn't notice them straying too far off the path from the game, so that's cool.
They added some stuff.
And this is my first time with the Japanese voice cast, so it's interesting. I like it so far.
I will say the Japanese voice cast stuff will be helpful for like the dancing game and stuff.
Yeah.
You'll
get
over
that
that.
too.
I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I mean, I liked it, but I thought it was really rushed, and I thought that they, as a Persona person who knew what was going on, I was like, oh, okay. But watching it with somebody who didn't was like, what is that? Why does that happen? Where are we? I'm like, well, we're jumping. This is a flash forward, and then we're gonna go back in a minute. You know what I mean? Like I felt like they were rushing to set up the cool stuff.
Yeah.
And we're getting to the cool stuff now, so I think it'll be smooth sailing. But I do think that they kind of like went through things really quickly. And there was one thing that they didn't say, I think, I could have just missed it, that was in the game that maybe they say it later, but it's pretty important. I think they skipped over it, but I don't want to get into it too much. I guess I'm going to ask you off camera. But they did add a little bit, like there's some dialogue and stuff they added for a little bit of like...
And obviously the big difference when we go from main Persona game to anime or even spin-off video game is that we get to hear our main character talk.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah.
In 5, he talks a little bit.
So that's the big jump from Persona 4 as far as liking Yu Narukami to
that was huge because it gave him his personality.
That's literally the most perfect man I've ever seen depicted in any sort of fiction. And he was awesome. And this one, it seems like, I'm glad they didn't make him like a U2, basically. But, not the band. But I'm glad they made him a little more stoic, and I can see already some little quick jabs. So I can see, because the cool thing with the game is that you usually get 3 or 4 options when it's your turn to answer, if you're not in like a side quest sort of scenario. But if you're just answering regular questions, you can usually get a sarcastic, like a joke type, or just a straight man sort of thing where you don't really like joke or anything. And he has a little bit of all of that so far. So.
Yeah, it kind of canons the choices, which I sort of like. And we'll see who Best Girl is going to end up being.
I already saw Best Girl show up, so I'm happy.
For 2 seconds. I thought it was going to be Makoto.
Yeah.
But it's starting to look like already. It might just be on, which makes the most sense.
We'll see. We have 23 more episodes to go.
We will see.
And probably an OVA after that.
Well, we got a lot of Persona fans that follow us, so I wanted to just hop right into that.
As it should be.
Because that was exciting. But now we can go into what we've been playing, and I'll start off, but feel free to chime in because you have played some of these. We'll start with Knowledge is Power. Now, This was a PlayLink game on Amazon. They were like giving these away. They're $5 add-on items to shopping stuff. So I was like, whatever. Grabbed it. It is a trivia game that focuses more on speed than accuracy, I would say.
Yeah.
If you get it right first, you get like 500 points. If you're second, you get 400, 300, 200, 100, or whatever, depending on how many people you have playing. And every round you get these things that you can do to other players. So probably the person in the lead, but not always. Maybe somebody made you mad. Maybe somebody picked a topic you're not very good at and you're kind of angry at them for it. Or they use their like trump card thing that makes it so that nobody else can pick a topic and they get to pick. A variety of reasons you might want to use it.
Usually just generally if you don't like someone.
That's also very possible. It's one of those games you play on your phone. You just pick the answer, but some of these things make it so you got to break ice before you pick it, or your answers are all dirty, or there's things nibbling at the letters so they're harder to read, and they stack. So if 3 people throw ice at you, you're going to be tapping on your phone a while before you can pick your answer, which gives the people behind a chance to catch up because they can do it faster, assuming that they pick the correct answer. And then kind of at the end, it all boils down to this. Let's tally up your points and put you on this pyramid, similar to like an astrocrag from Guts from Nickelodeon, if you're familiar with that. And they ask you questions again, and the fastest one climbs up faster than the other one. First one to reach the top wins. That's kind of the gist of it. It's got this like stop motion look to it. I really like the characters. I like the goofy stuff. I like its personality a lot.
I said it looks like a Wes Anderson.
It does.
Kind of game.
I like its personality and everything a lot, but I did have problems with it. 2 mainly. One is the punishment for getting it wrong. I feel like isn't strong enough.
It's like half and half. Some modes, and like I say, modes are like the side games in between major rounds. Some modes do punish you, and then some don't. And that, I guess, is my problem with that is consistency.
Yeah,
like, I want it to always punish.
Yeah, like I want it to be like, oh, if you got it wrong, either like you drop down or like something happens, and that helps as a catch-up mechanic too because then you can start picking topics that the person in first place isn't great at.
Yeah,
and they'll be punished for that. But as it stands, it's only like reward, basically. And the other thing is, I feel like particularly the Jack Party Box 3, I think, which has the Horror House trivia. It's just a better trivia game on your phone type thing to play. But for $5, I think it's totally worth that.
I think, the Jackbox Party games or whatever it's called. I think it does it better because it gives you like a slew of categories to pick. So if your direction for the trivia questions are driven by the players, then they need to be like a random thing or just like a big large assortment, because I feel like this game you can get pigeonholed into like
if your
first question is about cars, then like your second one
it's going to vaguely connect to cars.
Your options for what type of question or what category that you go next is like dealers, racing, it's just
and then when you go into racing it might be like horses, like you start somewhere and there's a very clear path that you're following.
So and with the idea of trump cards where you can automatically lock in that we go to this,
I like that.
Like I do,
you only get one, so
it doesn't pair well with that pigeonhole sort of thing where you can just go
also
off.
Not a lot of rounds, so it's a little weird.
Yeah.
There's only like a couple of rounds, so you don't even get that much chance to disagree with people and be like, well, I'm using this to instantly pay. Like that just doesn't happen that much. But overall, I think it was fun. I think it's a good
for the price,
waste of time. I think it's up to 6 people. I don't think you'll be mad playing it. I don't think it's a bad game. I just think that the Jack Party Box is a better way to do a similar
those games. Like this one, you can play 2, maybe 3 matches of. The Jackbox games are like an all-night thing. Like, you obviously have
it's
more
a little
games.
slow. You can't skip the cutscenes. It doesn't have that like Jack Party Box is like, have you played before? And then it skips all the nonsense. This needs something like that. But all right, let's talk about A Way Out really quick. Spoilers, I didn't finish it. I feel like this is just a running joke at this point. Got really, really close to the end. People keep telling me the last few chapters are amazing, and I'm on those last few chapters, and I'd really like to finish it. But, it takes 2 to A Way Out, and I'm only 1, so I wasn't able to get through it all. But it definitely has some really interesting stuff. I really like the way that obviously there's a whole bunch of like split screen co-op going on, and if one scene is more important, they do things like widen that screen so that you focus on that more, and they'll give the other person something to do that's not distracting. They'll be like, oh, you're shooting basketball, or you're just walking this path or whatever. Like they give you something a little less extreme to do. But there are some scenarios in the games where they actually change up the formula of how it works. There's one scene where you get to play full screen, and you're like running around, and it's like a heist movie, and you're running around doing this stuff, and then the camera will move away from that action and go through like a crawl vent or something and go, and then it'll come up somewhere else, and you'll be on the other character, and then that character gets to play full screen.
So a little more cinematic,
and it keeps shifting back and forth between those two. Like there did a lot of moments like that. They have a lot of choices in the game, and I'm interested to know what the difference is in the choices. Like there's typically it's like, okay, the aggressive way or the smart way, and you kind of pick between those two.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know how different it is if you pick the other way, basically. But I'm definitely enjoying it and having fun with it, and I want to finish it. But that ain't on me. That ain't my fault. So next up.
I can't wait until it's November, and I'm still asking you if
I'm
you
like,
found
man,
a way out
I'm
yet.
almost on the last chapter of A Way Out. Next up, Persona 3 Portable, particularly the female route for this game. I'm near the very end of this game. Like I said, I think last week, I picked it back up and started playing it. The music is really what got me into it. I love her soundtrack. And I was like, okay, let's relearn the weaknesses of these different Persona. Let's relearn all this stuff. And I am in full-blown, scheduling everything. On Monday, I got to do this. Tuesday, I got to do this. Oh, I got to go to Tartarus and get at least to this boss and then go back and rest and all this stuff. Really loving it. And the thing with the Persona games so far that I've gone back to and played, they have been better on my second playthrough through like the writing aspects with the shadowing of what's going to happen, all that stuff in the writing department, and then just the gameplay department doesn't age poorly. All it does is you understand it more and it clicks better.
Yeah.
The next time you go there. So I'm actually I feel like I'm enjoying my playthroughs more the second time, which gets me excited to play 5 again, which we've been talking about doing. But yeah, I'm interested to see if 5, I'm like, ooh, this is better the second time through, or if I'm ooh, maybe not. We'll see.
My thing with the second playthroughs is that usually I go Twitch streamer pro mode to get all of the like social links and get all of the like hardest parts out of the way. So the New Game Plus, I can kind of relax, and I'm not as stressed with, I need to max this out. I need to max that out.
The opposite. Though I'm not doing a New Game Plus. I'm just started the game over. So it's
really
slightly different. Yeah.
That seems pointless. But
well, it's because I'm playing as the girl.
No. I'm sorry, with 5.
Oh, yeah. 5 I have on the hardest difficulty.
Okay.
We'll see how that goes.
But yeah, especially since 5 gives you a lot more for New Game Plus.
Yes,
that's what I
5's
was
New
saying.
Game
It seems
Plus
kind
is
of pointless.
No,
But
yeah. 5's New Game Plus. I was talking about 3.
Yeah, okay. Understood. But with the New Game Plus, like it's always a bit more relaxing, and I feel like I can just do whatever, because that's sort of like what the animes always do. It's like, they just kind of bounce around. They don't have all this other stuff going on, and they don't have like a clear direction. It's just kind of do what you want to do. And also, I went with a particular person and kind of bounced around between 1 or 2, and I'm trying to
curious.
figure
Are
out.
you going to pick a different person?
Yeah, why not?
I can't do that.
I mean,
that bothers me so much.
I've already got my like canon route in place, so there's no reason not to.
I don't like
dabble.
My thing is I Persona's a little different because they are different stories. But particularly with like Telltale, I don't like seeing how the roots tie themselves back together. Like I have my story. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I wonder what would have happened if I killed this guy or I let this guy live or whatever. And then like in the end, it's always they just resolve it somehow in a nice little bow and then keep it going. And I don't like knowing that because it breaks that. Persona doesn't do that much. The branching paths of Persona is a little bit different.
But it came down to a pretty difficult choice or two as far as like the waifu categories and a couple other things. And I kind of want to play some of these dungeons and palaces a little bit differently, and once you have some of these power-up items, go back and see, hey, do I really hate the bank as much as I thought I did?
That's what I'm curious about.
So, and like Kamoshida's palace and stuff like that.
That dumb one with the space, I hated that one.
Oh, that was awesome.
That's the one where you're timed, right?
Oh, yeah.
That was horrible.
Perhaps.
Don't do that. Don't do that in games. Also, I've been playing Devil May Cry 3. So I'm pretty done with Devil May Cry 2. I checked it out. I got it. I saw what it was doing.
Yeah.
I went and watched some videos on it to, see the other perspectives of the game and stuff. And I get why people... I think if I got that game, I wouldn't be mad at all. I'd play it and I'd be like, oh, okay. But as a sequel to Devil May Cry, I understand exactly why people didn't like it. And I talked about that last week.
Yeah, it's trash.
Going into Devil May Cry 3... The thing I kept hearing is that it's really hard and it's more similar to the first one. And it is definitely really hard. It is way harder than any of the other ones by a long shot. And I actually think that hurts the game a lot because even though I think it aged the best clearly graphically, and they have a camera that you can kind of move by yourself, though it's inverted, which always confuses me, there's still the camera problems that 1, 2, and 3 have. And the issue is 3 is so hard that the camera problems kill you. Like, the camera will cut and you'll just get hit and your health goes whoosh, and you're like, well, there was nothing I could do there. Whereas I feel like Devil May Cry 1 was a little bit more forgiving, even though there was probably more camera issues. It didn't, like, completely screw you out of winning the fight, you know?
Sure.
Like, you could kind of get back into it. The worlds in Devil May Cry are kind of back, or Devil May Cry 3 are back to the gothic aesthetic, which I really like. The enemy variety and all that stuff I think is great, and it's back to that horror feeling. The worlds are bigger, but they're bigger like Devil May Cry 2, but since it has that gothic feel, it feels like they really focused the worlds to fit his new combat mechanics.
Yeah.
The fact that he can switch a bunch of stuff on the fly now, the combo system makes so much more sense in this one. They actually explain it and how it works.
Yeah, it's
and
really
everything.
nice.
I think as a game as a whole, it is the best one. It's the most polished and everything.
For sure.
Though I do think that, like I said, the difficulty hurts it a little bit. I understand why people like Dante so much, because in 1, he's like kind of just a cool guy, and in 2, he barely does anything, to be honest. He doesn't talk or anything like that, really. And then in 3, he's just like this crazy, over-the-top, like 90s character.
There we go.
Like, for some reason, he's like a Ninja Turtle or something like that. He even likes the pizza. So I'm understanding why people like Dante so much, particularly from this game. And when I thought of Devil May Cry before, because I hadn't played it, this is what I thought of, and now I'm getting that. That being said, I still prefer 1 because I like horror games so much, and 1 really did feel like a horror hack and slash game, and this is more in the vein of like a God of War type thing, where it's like more power fantasy, I guess. Like you're the cool guy that's just doing all the stuff and crazy, and it is absolutely crazy, like way more cinematic.
I like DMC3 Dante a lot. So
one thing I don't like about it is the worlds are way bigger, like I said, and the map is way worse. Like in 1, they just put an X where you're supposed to go, and in this one, I've been lost like 3 or 4 times trying.
Unsurprising.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out like what door I'm supposed to go through, and there's a lot of like stuff on the wall you need to interact with, but it kind of blends into the wall, so it's like you just walk right past it or whatever. I had a lot of trouble with that. Almost like I'm not even halfway through 3 yet, and it's already longer than all of 2. So, but yeah, a lot of that was me being lost and being like, where do I go? Like, I can't find whatever it is because the map doesn't tell me. Anyway, enjoying that though. Gonna play more of it. We'll see if I beat it, but I'm definitely gonna play more of it. And then next up, let's talk about the big ones. My Super Mario World rant from last week, which was funny because I did not know that IGN put Super Mario World as their #1 game of all time.
Oh, yeah?
That was a coincidence, and it was a funny one at that. And so I went there, I beat that game. I did the normal route. There's a bunch of like splitting paths and stuff in this game, but I did the normal route because I didn't want to look up like where warps and stuff were. That's not what I wanted to do. So I went through and I beat that. Then I was like, okay, well, I'll talk about that first. I got to, I think it was World 5, and that's where I really started having fun with the game. The game really picked up for me. World 5, World 6, I enjoyed those a lot. I think World 7 and stuff got muddled down again. But the difficulty spikes in that game are insane. They're just out of nowhere. I think that World 5 and 6 are like fair worlds, and they get crazier randomly. Like, you'll be in World 2, and all of a sudden there's like 8 bullet bills shooting at you at the same time, and it's like, I just started the game. Like, I'm still learning. Why is it doing this? And then you do World, 6-2 or something. I made that up. I don't know if that one is one, but like, and it's like a short, condensed level. And I'm like, oh, this is more what I like. But I started figuring some things out more. Oh, okay. The Boo levels are the ones that are always mazes that you need to figure out. Okay, now that makes sense. Like, I started piecing together kind of how it works, which made me enjoy it more. One thing that I did not enjoy was the final boss battle uses a skill that they literally don't teach you, and they never force you to use, which is the big problem, and that is the big difference to me between 3 and World, because I also played through Super Mario 3. After I beat it, I was like, I need to see.
Yeah.
I was like, I have to say. So I put in Super Mario 3, and I was surprised at how similar they were, actually. Super Mario 3 does have a bunch of labyrinth levels that I just didn't remember. I was just blocking those from my memory. It has a lot of like puzzle things to solve, and Mario is slippery. He's not as slippery, but he's definitely slippery. He doesn't like turn and cut as much as I would want him to. That's kind of where it comes from. And I was like, oh, okay. Maybe I'm overreacting. 3 is like this, and I do like 3. Like, I played through all of 3 in one sitting. I very much enjoyed going through 3, minus a couple parts where there's a few difficulty spikes. But the difference between 3 to me and World is World, like I said, felt like a Mario Maker level where they just expect you to know everything and they throw everything at you. Whereas 3 constantly put you in situations where you had to learn and there was no other option but to learn. So, for instance, there's a level where you run and you're trapped, and there's blocks in front of you. And if you run up to the blocks and you hit some buttons on the controller, eventually Mario grabs a block and throws it. And you go, oh, I can grab these blocks and throw it, because there's literally no other way to get out of the situation than to grab that block and throw it. And Mario World didn't have a lot of that, where, okay, now in the future, if I see those blocks, I know I can grab and throw them. Mario World, like I said, up to the final boss fight, there was skills that I didn't know I could do, because they never put me in a situation where you were required to use it to get out of it. Another one for Super Mario 3 was there is a pit you kind of fall down, but you don't die. There's a bottom to it, and you try to get out, and you keep jumping, and you hit your head the whole way up, and you build, like, blocks because you're hitting your head on the invisible things. And then when you go down the warp pipe that's there, you end up back at the top, and then you can run across it because you made all the blocks appear. Like, there just wasn't a lot of that in World, and I feel like that's kind of what it was missing. But I did forget how exploration-based and secret-based these old Marios are, and I think a lot of that is due to me liking Mario 1, the original one, so much, which is start, finish, and we built this level perfect so that if you are pixel perfect, you can just jump through the whole game, and that's kind of what I consider Mario to be, and the early levels of 3 do that, like, to a T, and then they start doing the twists. But also, a lot of Mario's Worlds levels look very similar. There's only kind of like 3 templates for Worlds, and Mario 3 has all the, from the deserts to the giant worlds
Dozens,
to the,
almost.
they do all that crazy stuff. So I definitely like 3 way more, and definitely still put it up really high. But after finishing this, enjoying it, like, I woke up and I was like, I'm going to play Mario World, and that's always a good sign. Finishing it, enjoying it, it definitely is going up way higher in my book, but I still don't even think it is, like, remotely I think this did everything this did way less complicated, and it worked a lot better.
I think World's my third favorite out of the lineup, but
out of all the Marios?
Yeah.
Interesting. The other interesting thing is I went and played Mario 64. And when I think about that game, I think Mario Odyssey, which is Mario moves fast. He's got all these moves at his disposal to get, wall jump and get places quick, and you're just collecting stuff as fast as you can. And then, like, you go and turn that game on, and maybe you can do that for the first couple levels because you know it. But, like, I get to tick-tock clock, and, like, one wrong jump and you just die. And it was interesting because these games have timers. So, like, they're like, hurry up, do something. Also, probably because they were like, you might get stuck somewhere because this is a game and we need a fail-safe for if we screwed something up. A lot of games did that. So they have a timer that kills you if it runs out. But Mario 64 doesn't have a timer, and it actually encourages you to go slow and, like, make sure you're going to make that jump and climb that wall up. And, like, you're actually kind of gingerly moving along in Mario 64, sorry. And when 64 gets hard or frustrating is when they expect you to do stuff in a short amount of time. That's when that game becomes the more frustrating part of it, when they're like, okay, hit this button and get to this part really quick. And you're like, man, Mario's movements are not how I think of them in my head, because you just watch speedruns and stuff. Remember? It's like, ooh, zipping around. So it's interesting, just kind of comparing and contrasting the Marios. But yeah, I mean, I think like 64 and Odyssey and 3 and 1 and stuff are way up here. But this is definitely way closer to the middle-ish of the pile than the bottom of the pile after having finished it up. I like to try to do that. I like to try to finish my games before I solidify my opinions on them, because, like I said, I think World 1 through 3 are just a clusterfuck of what the heck is going on. Also, there is one part in the game where they kind of teach you because you're just in a circle of levels and you can't actually get out unless you find a hidden way out.
Sure.
And I was like,
I was like,
okay. Like I beat the levels like twice and I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. I ended up looking it up. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's like kind of teaching you. There's secret ways to
well, if you had to look it up, then it probably didn't teach you very well.
No, I had to look up the final boss fight too. I was like, how do I do this? I'm like, oh, you can throw things up. Cool. And yeah, that's about it. I did hop into, I plugged up the N64 to play Mario 64, but I also like played a little Bomberman Hero and Bomberman 64 and stuff, mainly to prepare. People might know we do the list in advance, the top, you know, Xbox lists and stuff to save for a rainy day. And I just wanted to kind of refresh myself for the N64 stuff when we get there. And boy, do I love Bomberman. He's such a great guy.
Boy, do I hate that controller.
That too. I will say the controller not as bad as I remember it.
Oh, it's way worse.
Really?
Every time I go back and play that system, I'm just like, why? Why did I do that?
I was actually surprised at how not upset I was to use it. But that's it for me. What have you been going through, Mr.
Played another handful, I'd say a dozen, maybe 15 hours of Far Cry 5. Basically... like I said, the first week I played it, it's sort of got a Resident Evil 7 kind of vibe to it in the fact that the main cast, as far as villains go, are a family. So,
also, something that was kind of pointed out to me is there's not like cutscenes where you're out of body. Right. Like, it's first-person cutscenes, and that's something that Resident Evil 7 also did.
Yeah, I think they've actually been doing that at least since Far Cry 3. But yeah, you can tell when it goes into a cinematic because the HUD goes away, and, you know, anything like that. But yeah, you're always, like, if you're getting drug around, like, you're seeing your body. So, yeah. I don't know why these haven't made the leap to VR yet, but they already are built for it, basically, as far as cutscenes and stuff like that. But yeah, very cinematic like that, and like you said, you never kind of leave your body. But for the most part, I've gone through a few family members, kind of dealt with them in my own way, and I've got 1 or 2 left. So that kind of signals to me, if you want to think about it in like a Breath of the Wild sort of way too, that I'm kind of at like the 66.6 repeating mark, 2/3 of the way through the game. So that's kind of where I think I'm at. But, like I said last week, if it came down to Far Cry versus Ni no Kuni 2, I was going to put one ahead of the other. Went ahead and today, before I came here, finished Ni no Kuni 2.
Oh, really?
Got through the credits, and I guess there's not really a new game plus, but you can play afterwards sort of thing.
Most games do.
Yeah, that's kind of the JRPG way of going about it lately, too. And I haven't finished building my kingdom yet, but I've finished the game. And I think I'm going to play a handful more hours just so I can kind of complete that end of it and be content, and then move back into Far Cry, and then that'll domino into God of War and whatever else. Probably pick up a few of the...
It's getting busy soon.
Play a few more multiplayer games in the meantime. But as far as Ni no Kuni 2 is concerned, at least mostly final thoughts. Like I said, I'll still play a little bit this next week, but nothing... should be like new, and no like new revelations about the game. I really like it. As far as the story goes, I don't think it's the strongest part of the game, but I think it wrapped itself up nicely. It's more of the kind of Ghibli fairy tale or Disney sort of like it's like that, where like details and very specific moments aren't really captured as closely as like a Mass Effect or like some of these other games that are like, oh man, the story's the best ever. I don't think it's going for that, and to that end, I'll say, I think it did well. It wrapped itself up nicely. There wasn't like too much like, okay, JRPG kind of fiction world, okay, cool, that makes sense, or no, like convenient sort of like traps or anything like that where they got out of it. I think it ended up nicely, and I think it stuck to its kind of genre well. So I appreciate it for that. It still kept us light, kind of tone the whole way through.
How is the like grinding for the game?
Grinding is not as bad as other JRPGs. I put it kind of in the middle. What you can do is through the kingdom building, you can cut out some of that grinding by making like your XP ramp up a lot more and making things a little bit easier on yourself. So if you just went bare bones and like didn't play the game, but just grinded by fighting enemies over and over and over, it'd probably get a little rough.
Yeah.
But I think, there's obviously built-in mechanics to where you can ramp up a little bit faster. There's items that can make it easier. But for the most part, you're either going through kind of like dream world dungeons or just going through side quests and beating people up. So
that's what I'm always worried about with JRPGs in particular is what's the grind like, and is there like a optimal way to do it that I can just get it over with type thing.
Unfortunately, unlike Tokyo Mirage or anything like that, there's no like
what a great DLC.
add-on or DLC where you can just like, hey, go into this like hyperbolic time chamber DLC and come out like 99 level and just crush everything.
We should do a thing on best DLC because it's definitely Tokyo Mirage's dungeon.
I'm sure you can play the PC version and do something to help that out if you really want to. But no, it wasn't bad. And the cool thing is, if you're thinking about it, while you're out grinding, your kingdom is building resources. Yeah. So you're getting stuff to help make better armor. You're getting stuff to help make better potion. So there's stuff happening in the background. So even though you're out here for 5 hours smacking like little golems and rats and whatever around, or maybe doing your little skirmish mode, and just fighting wars, small little wars and stuff like that. When you come back, it's like you're not only rewarded XP wise and stuff like that, but your kingdom is progressing. So that helps in the fact that you're not like, well, instead of playing the story, I did this, or instead of doing that, I did, like, you're getting 2 or 3 kind of levels of rewards. So that's nice. As far as like fighting and kind of like the end game sort of stuff, I really liked it. Hard not to go into the specifics, but it wrapped itself up nicely. Like I said, a lot of characters, I think, got a lot of development, really, and that's not sort of how these games usually go. They're not really character specific. It's just kind of, you stick to your main guy and he does his hero thing and saves the day. Like I said, lighthearted tone. It's not going to go off into some like weird direction like some lighthearted games kind of can, especially like last year. There's no big surprise or anything like that. But it's just very consistent all the way through. Like the characters, I like the way you can outfit them and the way you can tweak the systems to where, if you're just really having a tough time with these dragons, you can make yourself basically about immune to fire and as resistant as possible to dragons and do the most damage to dragons. Or if there's a certain type of enemy like that, you can always adjust on the fly and, crafting weapons, building your kingdom. Like there's just a lot of systems and in place. And flashing back to last year with like Xenoblade, where I said there's a bunch of systems, not all of them worked quite as well, but this one, I think
they all tie together.
They're all pretty nice.
I always like that when the systems, like, you unlock something for this, which lets you be better at that, which lets you go to this area that you know.
Yeah, and it's one of those systems where you build up your kingdom, so that means you can make better armor, and then you get to a side quest where this person says, hey, I'll join you if you can give me this cool armor piece. Like, I can craft that. So you give it to them. You can fight, in the little skirmish mode, you can fight that better with stronger people, and then that raises your kingdom up, and it's just like a circle pattern. So everything kind of, it's like a handshake sort of thing for all the systems, and that really helps because, like I said, you can get into some games like Final Fantasy or stuff like that where you kind of go off and you're like, I'm going to power level or something like that, and then you're kind of brushing off like 2/3 of the game that you're not really getting through. So I like it. So far, game of the year, but that's not saying too much until some of these heavy hitters start to come out, which maybe we'll get into here shortly.
So that's it for you?
Yep, 2 games.
All right, let's kind of run through the news really quick, and then, we'll be talking about games coming out with some release dates soon. But first, the biggest news. Spyro Reignited Trilogy. Yeah. It's real, and it's coming September 21st to the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. A $40 price tag, which I'm glad to see, because I was worried. Because Crash did really well, and it was $40.
Yeah.
And I was scared Activision was going to go, ooh, $60 for Spyro, but they didn't. So
and Spyro's got a lot more like toy and accessory stuff in its history. So I was scared that they would try to do some of that, like throw in some of this.
Scan your Skylander or unlock this out.
So I'm glad they kind of just stuck to what worked, like they're learning.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. I think it looks better than Crash Bandicoot, which is saying something because Crash looked amazing.
I think it's more important for it to look better than Crash, too, as far as like the actual games themselves.
The thing is, the Spyro game, you're going to get mad. The Spyro games are more kiddie games, though. Well, they're way more basic, and I'm interested to see what they do because this is not only a remaster, whatever. Yeah. They are tweaking some stuff in this game. They've announced that they're adding flair to the game, like all this stuff. So we'll see what they do.
I'm fine with that assessment because, as a lot of people were reminded last year, Crash is not an easy series.
Oh no!
So
especially when you fuck up
a lot of these like 30-plus-year-olds who are like yelling at the screen and stuff like that. Probably like they did back in the day when it first came out. Like, yeah, I'm fine with it being called a kid's game, at least in comparison to Crash, because it is nowhere near as hard.
The interesting thing that I saw and had me worried is that this is actually not done by the same team that did Crash Bandicoot. This is done by Toys for Bob, which is the Skylanders team.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously they've been working with Spyro for a long time, but I was concerned when I saw that on the box before I saw anything else. I was like, oh, why isn't Visions doing this? Vicarious Visions to Crash. Like, why aren't they doing it? And then I saw the trailer and I was like, yeah, I trust them.
I feel like, maybe there's a right to be worried, but I feel like maybe in the background somewhere, something like you and I would never know, is that there's a head guy over that says, see what Crash did, you do this.
Yeah, kind of like John Lasseter over at Pixar, who's like, I'll check out Disney's other movies. Hey, Wreck-It Ralph, what are you doing? Let me fix it.
So I'm sure there's some creative control type of responsibility in there that, if they're maybe trying to get a little too goofy on this end or whatever, then he reins it back in and says, no. Crash formula worked. Do that with this. So
yeah,
I'm hoping there's a behind-the-scenes sort of guy doing that.
And then the other news from this, which made me very happy, is I don't even know this was a long time ago, but when Crash Insane Trilogy launched, if you did the code that you used in Crash Bandicoot Warp to play the Spyro demo, it clearly worked. Like it went plung and your cursor disappeared, but nothing happened. If you type it in now, it plays the trailer for Spyro Remastered or Reignited. So something became of that little Easter egg that people figured out. But yeah, like I said, $40, $32 or whatever if you do your Amazon stuff or your Best Buy stuff. Probably of the announced dates for games, I probably want this the most, to be honest. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, I really like that game, or that series, I guess I should say. But
yeah, and there's one of them I've never even played at all. So
really?
I think it's the third one.
I don't
think I played that.
I don't mean this in it's better than Crash way, but I'm more excited for it than Crash.
I'm not, but I'm still really excited. So. Give me Medieval though. I'm more excited about the Medieval.
I'll take Spider-Man.
I really hope that's 1 and 2. Let's talk about Spider-Man, which is coming September 7th. Yeah. So this was a thing Insomniac just kind of got on Twitter, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, the release date's going to come out tomorrow, and it's going to be the main topic of Game Informer, I believe." And they played it.
It was the May cover, I think.
All this stuff, and I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of out of the blue." But yeah, it dropped. They put out some information. They talk about, playing as Mary Jane, some things that we've kind of known about from some of the trailers, but they've kind of confirmed all that. And then, we got the September 7th release date, which is later than I thought it would be.
Way later.
I thought it would be a June game.
I was going to swear by a J month, so June or July.
Yeah, July at the late. I thought it would come out E3 week because Sony almost always puts out a game that week, like a Sony partnered game. I think they did The Last of Us for sure. I think Batman Arkham Knight, which was a very Sony-aligned game, came out that it seems like they always have a bundle or something for that week, and they didn't.
Technically, September 7th is still summer.
Yeah,
they
didn't lie.
So
they didn't lie, but it's just
I don't know. It's a weird kind of late summer, early fall game.
Yeah.
Not to say it can't do well. I think it will do well sales-wise and all that.
It's gonna.
I don't know. I don't know how it's going to compare because, like I said, it's its own kind of little action-adventure type thing. It's not like the God of Wars. It's not like some of these other games. So.
I think it's like Arkham. I think it's completely comparable to Arkham, which those games are huge.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I've got no like hesitations or worries about the game for sure. It's just it just doesn't jive with me. I for sure thought it was going to be June or July.
Yeah, I thought it would be earlier. And my theory is that they thought Days Gone was 2018 because they kind of talked about it like it is. Like they keep showing it, all this stuff, and then they had that weird quiet announcement that Days Gone has been delayed to 2019. And I was thinking maybe that was supposed to be like, October, November, and they kind of just pushed Spider-Man a month or two to fill in that spot.
Well, my other thing too.
Also, Dreams is supposed to come out. Remember that game?
My other thing too is that they couldn't have been scared of a game because they just put themselves right next to Red Dead.
Well,
basically,
they're not right next. Red Dead's over a month away from that.
Still, I mean, it's pretty close.
I think that's okay.
But September is kind of a packed month now with that.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Being in there.
September is great. September's going to be an awesome month. But yeah, Spider-Man, big game. I'm interested to see how this goes. And I think I have it written down. Last week we were talking about Insomniac, and World End corrected me. I said Infamous was an Insomniac game.
Oh, you meant Sunset Overdrive?
I slipped. No, I meant Resistance.
Oh.
I was like, the other PS3 game that I wish that they would remaster. Like, I would love Infamous 1 and 2 remastered. I would love the Resistance trilogy remastered, so I slipped. But I actually consider those studios very similar as far as their body of work and their quality and stuff.
Obviously, because you screwed that one up.
I sure did.
But
Sunset is also similar to Infamous as far as gameplay and stuff. I
And
think they said that the world of Sunset.
That's what I was getting ready to say.
3 times,
2 or 3 times larger than
for
Sunset. So I
Spider-Man.
was just like, well, you kind of
Sunset's
need
pretty
it.
big.
Kind of need it too because he's kind of fast as far as mobility.
Yeah. Does that mean like up though? Like does that count verticality? Technically, Gravity Rush world is huge. There's a lot of space that you just fly through where there's nothing to get to the next area. Next up, Boss Key, which is Cliff Bleszinski's studio that did Lawbreakers, has officially abandoned Lawbreakers. They are not going to be working on any more updates for the game, and they have moved on to new projects. Not very surprising. Lawbreakers was
super unsurprising.
The definition of a flop, and it was super unfortunate because I liked that game. I had fun playing what I played.
You didn't at first, I feel like.
But
you grew to like it.
I had complaints about it, but I loved the movement of the game. Like my complaints were they did the realistic thing, but it's also just Overwatch like hero shooter, and it's very hard to differentiate characters with realism. And I think that Overwatch, where they can have these popping blues and greens, it's very easy to tell what character's shooting at you. And in that one, you're like, is it? Oh, I'm dead. like you can't figure out how to counter them.
My thing with the game and why it's unsurprising to literally everyone is that like I haven't heard about it since launch.
Yeah, I've
not even like updates or like, hey, we're gonna try this new thing or this is how we're gonna compete. Like,
or we're going free to play, which is what I thought for sure was going to be the announcement.
Yeah, just nothing.
Hey, the game's free to play, and we're So yeah, this is kind of I feel like a wake up call for Cliff. It sucks. Like I said, I like the game. I wish it did better. It did feel like Unreal meets Overwatch, and I think that's cool. I'm worried that their next game's just a battle royale game, though. To be dead honest,
it felt super unprepared because you knew making that game you were going to enter into a pretty volatile market. So, like, if you went into it, okay, it didn't do well right off the bat, and you didn't have kind of contingency plans or backup, or here's how we're going to compete, sort of strategies. I don't know. I feel like that's super bad in this kind of industry where, it's hard to make your game known for like years and years now.
Yeah, especially if they're like a small team compared to these. Like if you look at almost all of the games that are huge, it's these giant companies. You have League, like the ones with really long tails. You have League, you have the Ubisoft games, you have Epic's Fortnite game. Like these are big name games. Like PUBG is really the only one I can think of that isn't this giant massive studio that overtook it. And that was actually the problem with PUBG is they blew up and they were not ready for that. And they're like, so
and then they opened the door for another game.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened though. Like they couldn't keep up. But I will say I'm glad that they are working on a new project and they're not like, and the studio's closed, because I really Cliff was the first video game developer that I followed.
Yeah,
I remember watching him on G4 and being like, yeah, that guy that did Unreal.
Well, yeah, that, and he had more of a personality, and he liked to be out on stage and liked to be out in these conferences. And
now I know a
interviews.
whole bunch, but back then he was the only one I could name as a kid.
Yeah,
besides
when he was Cliffy B.
Yeah, besides maybe Tim Shaver or something.
Sure.
Next up, Final Fantasy 15 is getting a whole bunch more DLC all the way through 2019. So on top of, they're doing this whole Comrades mode, which is releasing separately from the game, so you can just get that and play it separately. And then that's going to have update packages all through 2018, if I remember correctly. Then in 2019, we are getting 4 more story-based chapter DLC that it heavily ties into kind of the lore and some of the backstories and stuff of the game, so it's a little bit more spoilery. But yeah, I don't want to go into it too much because of that. But yeah, we're getting 4 more of those, as well as some mod supports, character customization, avatar customization, a level editor.
Yeah.
There is a lot of stuff coming to this game. And while I think that's cool, because the reason they're doing this is because the game took them 10 years to make it, they're like, oh, let's milk it, because we have all these assets that we can't
and it just came to
away.
PC, and this stuff is considerably easier to do on PC, to release the stuff and mod support and all that.
Sure, I mean, they're going to be other places, but they spend a lot of time working on this game, and they need to make that money back. That's why it has that mobile game that's blowing up, and they're doing the Pocket Edition and all the stuff. But that's cool. My only thing
while they're doing a fishing VR game.
That's true, too. My only thing is I hate when they did the Royal Edition, and then now they're like, but 2 more years of DLC.
Yeah.
Well, I'll wait for all
to
this
be fair, I'm
finish
pretty sure from the get-go
they
they said this would be supported for years and years to come, so...
I do think that they
but
said
it wasn't printed on the box, so it's easy to fool.
Yeah, it's crazy
most people.
for a single. I mean, I guess it's not single player now, but for a single player game to have this kind of support is kind of weird. I don't hate it, but I also don't particularly like it because I wouldn't want all my games to do that. Yeah.
Well, the only thing with me is that now that I'm finished with Ni no Kuni and I'm just gonna have Far Cry until the 20th, I think is when God of War comes out.
Yeah, 420.
This would be a perfect time for me to get some 15 in, but it's okay, well, I can play it, or I can wait for this episode 1 to come out. And it's okay, I'll wait. And then episode 2 is going to come out, and then episode 3, 4, and it's just
and they bundle it. Yeah.
I feel like I'm getting ready to start, and then I'll just wait.
It's the fighting game problem, where they're like, hey, 3 new characters, and then 3 more get announced, and then 3 new and I'm like, I'll just buy it when it's done.
The definitive edition.
Yeah, in this case, the definitive edition. Next up, a real quick note. No Man's Sky for Xbox, which we were talking about last week, has gone up for pre-order, and it is $50. So, still expensive, not full price.
Yeah.
But it is still more than I think it should be. I think even 40 would have been fine. I think 50 is a little bit where people are going to be like, I don't know, I've heard things. But I think at 40, if you launch it there, people will be like, oh, yeah, So we'll
think, 50 is a no man's buy for this guy. So.
Damn. So next, there is some changes announced for the Dark Souls remaster, and I'm not going to go into all of them. But
you sure did type all of them.
I sure copied and pasted all of them. But the Switch version will display at 1080p, 30 frames a second when docked, and 720 30 while in handheld mode. So that's interesting. That won't matter too much because the screen's so teeny. But I'm curious to see how that looks. I personally think I'd still get this game on PS4, but I do think it is a cool Switch.
Contrast settings are going to be very key in this game because it is a dark game.
I can't see anything.
And the thing about dark games and videos and movies and all that stuff is when you shrink the screen down, if you don't have, the 4K kind of resolution or something like that, the darks kind of blend in with each other, and it's going to be even more difficult to play your Dark Souls.
They've changed the way that items are used. They've changed servers to dedicated servers, which is nice.
Yes.
And they've changed how you get into other people's rooms. And I guess they've kind of matched all this stuff with Dark Souls 3's systems and controls. I know that they talked about... So I haven't played them, so correct me if I'm wrong. But in Dark Souls 2 and 3, you have a free movement roll, so you can roll in basically any direction. And in Dark Souls 1, it was just like forward, back,
Basically,
left, right. And they said that they are keeping the forward, back, left, right because they don't want to break the game. On top of that, obviously, we're getting the upscaled 4K resolution for PS4 Pro. The PC version will be native 4K. It'll be 60 frames on the Pro and the Xbox One X. It'll be 1080p 60 on the original PS4 and the original Xbox One. So that's cool. That's actually really cool for the original Xbox One because usually they don't get the 1080 60s.
Yeah.
So that's nice. Online players have been increased from 4 to 6. There's an item that's going to be needed for 6 players because, of course, why not?
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, the password's going to be changing. Then they talk a lot about PvP. So is PvP a thing in the original Dark Souls?
It's like a Twitch kind of thing. So you'll see like a handful of streamers that really get hard into PvP, and it's like
it's
very
actually like you fight the other person.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And you can take turns 1v1. You can gang up on people. So a lot of what I see streamers and people do is just kind of have what I guess you would call in fighting games like a quarter mode. 2 people fight 1v1. Whoever wins stays in. Next guy jumps in, sort of thing. So it's just one of those systems. But yeah, it's a purely like subset kind of genre thing where only a pocket of people do it, but the people that play it really like it. So that's cool to see them kind of support that.
Kind of like the Catherine multiplayer stuff where they're like, I guess people play this. Maybe we should do something about it.
More active players in Dark Souls PvP. But yeah, it's nice for them to touch on that a little bit, add more people, and make it a little bit easier to get into other people's games, because some of that technology used to get into other people's games feels kind of ancient when adapted to nowadays.
Yeah. So it has arena battles. We'll use password matching. 3v3 and 6-player death matches have been added. And then, of course, the most important one, players can now prevent matched red phantoms from seeing their white signed soapstone. I don't know what that means.
Don't worry about it.
But I figured I would read it.
You're going way deeper than you ever want to go in Dark Souls.
Some more multiplayer stuff. I guess repoint spawns are going to be random. You can set some stipulations for matches, I guess. Languages increases, things like that. So basically modernizing it.
Yes.
to summarize it, which is really cool.
Actual remaster.
Yeah, really, really cool. So I'm excited. When is this? Mid-May, I believe?
I think so, yeah. Not too far away.
Interested. I think I'm going to wait and see how the Switch one does, like how it runs and stuff. See if it's choppy.
I think you should get this for PS4 Pro. That's my professional opinion.
Yeah, I don't need that. We'll figure it out. The only thing about PS4 that I am tempted by is the fact that the whole trilogy is there. I think that's cool. Just to be able to get the whole trilogy.
It just plays way better.
Yeah, but I don't know if Dark Souls is a game I care that much about, like Bloodborne. Like, I didn't even really get into Bloodborne, so I don't know if I care that much. And having the portability might make me
I would
care
think you would
more.
like Bloodborne's setting more than Dark Souls.
I do. I played Demon Souls a little bit. That was fun.
Talk about old. That game feels real old.
I guess so. It didn't bother me that much, but I play a lot of old games.
Not in a bad way, just ancient.
Let's move into some questions, and our question for this week is just going to be talking about game releases, what ones we're interested in, and what we think of kind of their release dates, if they're maybe too close together, or things like that. So I have a list. We're not going to go over all of them, but just any that kind of stand out to you as maybe, I'm going to be getting that, or I'm interested in that, in any way, shape, or form. So we are going to start with May to kick it off, because that's the random month that I decided to start with. And I'll start with
April's pretty easy. It's just God of War from here on out.
Nintendo Labo.
Like I said.
Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze is coming to the Switch May 4th. I think that this is really interesting. They added the Funky Kong thing to make the game a bit easier for people. It's more expensive than its Wii U counterpart, which I think is very strange. But I hope that it does well, as most Switch games like this do, because I want to see more Tokyo Mirage. I want to see more of those Switch games ported over.
I just want more Donkey Kong.
In particular. And I'm also going to throw out Dragon's Crown Pro. I really liked playing that game co-op. I think it's a rare 3-player kind of co-op experience that you can have, and it works really well. I thought that it was fun. It had a good gameplay loop of the dungeons and different paths in the dungeons. The bosses were fun. All the characters were interesting and different.
Art style is pretty cool too.
No, the art style is great, and the fact that you're going to be able to transfer your progress over to the PS4
I didn't know
one
that. Okay.
is awesome, because not enough games do that with Vita things and PS3 things. They're going to. I think the patch actually came out where you can cloud save now, and you can actually grab it on the PS4 and play it in 4K on your Pro. So that's probably really pretty. I'm also going to throw out the Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, which is one of the remasters or whatever you want to call them, re-releases that I'm really excited for Switch, because I played the Fire Emblem Warriors. I enjoyed it because I think that works really well handheld, and I already know because I played it, I beat it on Wii U. I really liked Hyrule Warriors, and I didn't get any of the DLC at all. So there's a whole bunch of extra stuff that I am ready to dive into. Obviously, Mega Man Legacy Collection coming to Switch May 22nd. I'll probably grab that just to have some Mega Man stuff on my Switch to play. In passing, the Dark Souls is coming out. I like how I asked earlier. And I guess it's coming out the same day as Detroit Become Human, which is another big one. I loved Heavy Rain. I really like Beyond Two Souls. And from what I've heard from this game, this is more in the Heavy Rain category, but modernized. More like an Until Dawn, I guess I could say. It seems like a more modernized Heavy Rain as far as gameplay goes, and then story seems fantastic to me.
Obviously, I don't think that's anywhere close to the same player base, but there's no reason to play Dark Souls over Detroit if you're getting both, just because if you've waited this long and haven't played Dark Souls, then you can make it another couple weeks or something.
But
you pretty much,
as far as May goes for me,
you pretty much hit all of them. I would say that State of Decay 2 just did a trailer this last week that made it a little more interesting to me than the original trailer back at last year's E3. I think that's the only time they've shown anything else on it. I'm a little more interested than I was then, and if I'm going to play State of Decay 2, it's going to be that week.
That is its time.
That is the only week of this entire calendar year I will probably play State of Decay 2, unless it's just, it gets me and then I'm playing into Dark Souls or Detroit's time frame. But yeah, I mean, everything else, the Shin Megami game, like if that was the Switch game.
I was going to say it's on 3DS.
Yeah.
So I refuse to buy a 3DS game now. I guess I'll buy Q2 when that comes out. Never mind.
I was like, what? Yeah, some of this other stuff is fine. I want Donkey Kong to do well just because I want more Donkey Kong. I don't really care about this in particular one. I would get the tennis game that's mentioned on here, Tennis World Tour, but that's carrying into next month, or the month after, I should say. So
also, there's another tennis game that sounds much more fun. That's going to be.
That's what I was saying. Yeah. So we can jump into June. I guess I'll start off with June. BlazBlue, whatever you want to call it. That's cool that it's coming to Switch, but the important one is that it's on PC. So
I had two wrong statements. That's impressive.
But I'm interested in this game despite its peculiar or not DLC. Very good DLC strategy. Yeah. Other than that, the only other... I want to get The Crew 2 just because I think this is going to be a sad I for racing games. And the first Crew game was actually pretty good. So I'm kind of interested in that regard, but I don't know about picking it up right here in the year. But other than that, Mario Tennis Aces for sure.
Yes, I think that's going to be a lot of fun for us. This vampire game is interesting because it seems like it has a really dedicated fan base, like a small fan base that, like, whenever people talk
as
about
most
it,
vampire
like,
things do,
they're like, oh, and they're like freaking out about it, and I'm like, I know literally nothing besides the cover of that game, and that's it. I know it got delayed a whole bunch, and whatever, but yeah, BlazBlue, I'm very excited for that, mostly because I get to play basically Persona Arena. With
more enemies,
without hooking up the PS3.
Yeah,
so that's always nice. July. So obviously, as we keep moving on, there's less and less announced release dates.
Sure.
These are just announced ones. So Crash Bandicoot: The Insane Trilogy for Switch, Xbox One, PC, July 10th. I'm excited for this because I think Crash on the Switch will be great. I have Crash on my Vita. I have all the Crashes on my Vita, and they're just a great thing to turn on and play 3 or 4 levels when I'm bored, when I'm waiting for somebody, whatever.
It is a perfect handheld
and
game.
I think that's why I want Mega Man for Switch and Crash for Switch. Those are my comfort food games that I'm like, oh, I can run through the first 5 levels of Crash 100 times and never be bored of it, and that's what I'll do.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Toad, once again, just more ports from the Wii U that I want to see.
More not named Tokyo Mirage.
We're getting there. And then Octopath Traveler, which is easily one of my most anticipated games from this year. I absolutely love the demo, and I imagine I'm going to spend a lot of time with that game.
Yeah, it's purely Octopath for me in July, for sure, which is why...
It's a very Switch-heavy... I guess they're the only ones who've had a direct to announce stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll fill that out with E3.
Which is why I'm not too terribly sad that Spider-Man got bumped, because that means more time with Octopath.
That's fair.
More... If the game's not that long, then at least going back and trying it with a different character sort of thing, because, gameplay can make all the difference in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I will take the very unannounced month of August and say that I do like some WarioWare.
Do you like some 3DS?
I love the 3DS. One of the best consoles ever.
Wow.
WarioWare, maybe.
But it's one of the best consoles ever, Nick. Yeah, I don't have interest in this at all. Why isn't it on Switch? If it was on Switch, I'd probably get it. Actually, WarioWare on Switch sounds really fun. Like, they could do a lot of really silly stuff. You could play, like, they could almost have 2 versions of it, where it's like handheld mode and docked mode. That would be neat, but they didn't do it, as they never do with anything. And obviously, we're gonna they have that Luigi's Mansion stuff coming that they haven't announced the dates for, I believe, and stuff like 3DS. They just keep going. They keep going. I wish they'd stop.
Yeah, when they literally created a console to kill it.
Next up, September, obviously, we have Spyro and Spider-Man, and then right smack in between those two is Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is interesting because we haven't really seen the game yet. We got a teaser trailer, and we
seen the movie.
We've got that. We got that leak from 4 years ago that somebody was working on it in an airplane, and somebody looked over and saw them working on it, and that was that. And coming to Xbox One and PS4 same day, which is big news.
I don't think Spyro's sell rates would get hurt by it. I don't think Spider-Man's copies sold is going to take a hit.
No, I think
I'm curious
to
to see in an alternate world what would happen if Shadow of the Tomb Raider came out a month earlier,
or in January or something.
Yeah, I really think that's really the game that's going to get cannibalized a little bit.
Yeah, I always talked about how they're delaying Rise of the Tomb Raider because I think it was coming out on Fallout 4 Day.
Yeah.
And I was like, they're going to delay it, and they never did, so I have no reason to believe that they're going to move this one.
I'm curious to see the Xbox One numbers versus the PS4 numbers, since it's right behind Spider-Man.
Yeah, because Xbox won't have Spider-Man.
Yeah, because they'll want something to play. Because I'm pretty sure, didn't Insomniac tweet out? I think someone asked him, so when's it coming to Xbox? And they said never.
Said never. Yeah.
So... that's pretty much nail in a coffin for that one.
Yeah. That being said, super, super, super excited for Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I think this is easily a contender for my game of the year, but let's be honest, if Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out this year, that's going to get it. But yeah,
we already got it right here.
Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I enjoyed the first one. I really loved the second one. And hopefully the third one doesn't do and it's bigger and there's just more. I hope they focus on the character and the story, because that's where it's lacking. You don't need to do more of the stuff that I liked already and make it bigger. Focus on the stuff I didn't like and keep the other stuff about even, and then I'll be happy. But we'll see, because we literally haven't. I guess at E3.
Maybe the dude on the plane did, but
yeah, he knows more than any of us.
What I normally call the Dude Bro month of October, we have Call of Duty, Black Ops 4, maybe. Call of Duty is always relegated to maybe for me, and it just depends on
purchase. I was like, no, it's definitely coming out.
Yeah.
There's no way.
For sure. But I mean, the obvious slam dunk there is Red Dead Redemption 2. I could be fine not seeing or knowing anything else about that game until
so
it releases.
crazy. I just have no desire about Red Dead at all. And then I went back and tried to play that other one, and I was like, man, I hate this horse. And I was just like, I don't even want to play this game. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe if I get in on the hype and I get it day one, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I can talk to everybody about it, and like maybe then I'll really enjoy it. But I feel like this is exact Horizon. I'm exactly as excited about this as like the Horizon thing, and I feel like if I play it, I'm gonna be like, yep, cool. Like I don't
maybe we'll watch some westerns or something and get you into like the cowboy
mood.
That's
that's the way to do it for sure.
Yeah, Ni no Kuni's for me is kind of shaking with that game coming out, and maybe God of War and a few others that we know of as far as the Game of the Year race. So we'll see. Like I said, I don't know much about Red Dead Redemption. I don't care to know anything about it. I just know I'm going to get it. So
I'm in the same boat, except for that I know I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we don't know really anything else, but we have some assumptions.
Inklings, yeah.
Apparently, Kingdom Hearts is going to be coming out. I would assume Forza is coming out. I wouldn't be surprised if Halo.
This would be a Horizon year for Forza.
Yes.
And yeah,
Horizon 4.
I just feel like I know that Halo is going to come out.
Halo sucks. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Dreams, as I was talking about earlier, and then Nintendo with Smash Brothers. Where's that fit into this equation? Like, very interesting.
December, probably.
This year is very interesting because I feel like as we move on, there's going to be really good games, but it's going to be like this month, and this month were insane, and then you just have plenty of breathing room to play like little things or finish up those games, which is much better than like last year where it was almost like panicking.
Right now,
like, there's too many games.
Right now, November is anyone's game, and early October.
Since Call of Duty moved, it's like, what happens now in November? We know Battlefield's coming.
Yeah, you got to figure something huge is going to hit in November. So maybe that's your Kingdom Hearts month.
I think so.
Sure. Maybe it's either going to be like one November, big December. Thing now that Call of Duty's moved. It's either going to be one big thing or just like 6 kind of. I don't want to call Spider-Man a small thing, but it's like
I think it'll get smashed.
But it's gonna be like Resident Evil 2 and this and this and this and that.
You keep dreaming, man.
This is the only year to do a remake, unless you're gonna wait for 30 years or 25 or something.
All right. Let's go over just a couple comments from last week. Obviously, I teased that one, but World End says Infamous is Sucker Punch, not Insomniac. I said, yeah.
Duh.
I got silly me. The biggest thing in that is that Sucker Punch, Sony studio, Insomniac, not. Insomniac just works with Sony a lot. But yeah, like I said, I put those studios kind of on the same bar. We'll see after that Ghost of Tsushima game comes out, though. Because
excited,
hearing a lot of good stuff about that.
That's kind of what I was alluding to with November. Like that could be those sort of games, like 5 or 6 of those sorts of games packed into November, or there's just going to be Kingdom Hearts and everyone's going to run.
Yeah, we'll see. Zach Yoder says Super Mario World is one of my top 5 games of all time, easily my favorite Mario game of all time, and one of the greatest 2D games ever made. I disagree, but I did enjoy it. Overall.
I enjoy the enthusiasm.
I have positive feelings leaving that game, though I have way more positive ones for other Mario games that I've played.
I enjoy the enthusiasm, and I am much more of a narrative person, so it would not be in my top 5. It's in my top 5 Mario games.
Just games of all time? Yeah, no way.
It's in my top 5 Mario games, for sure.
Nope.
Number 3, I guess, off the top of my head.
Number 3 is in my...
Anyway. That's number 1.
He also says, I really need to play Persona 3 and 4 again. Don't we all?
Yes.
Don't we all?
Well,
and 5.
Going over this list, our Persona 5 playthrough number 2 will probably be in the J month or August until E3.
So that's it for the comments from last week.
Turns that on its head.
Whoa. Wanted to kiss me. You see that? Got a little close and personal.
That would make one thing in this world.
The truth hurts. So if you have any comments on anything that we have talked about so far, let us know in the comments down below. And actually, that's going to be it, because as far as releases go for this week, there was nothing of note, nothing of interest. Like, this is a very weak.
Our release section
This is a very weak
it's
week.
not God of War, so
Yeah, and then in the next week or two, it's going to be kind of crazy. But yeah, God of War definitely our next games. I might I want to jump into Ni no Kuni sometime. Check that out. I got a bunch of stuff that and of course I talk about wanting to go back and play some old games. And of course I've started that. So, interested to do a little bit more of that. I got Super Metroid on the brain. That might be the next one that I go in and try out. How about you? What do you think you're going to be playing? Just more Far Cry for this week until
Far Cry, I think, will consume my week because, like you mentioned, Persona, as far as like the anime department goes, there's a few other shows that just kicked back into the spring season that we're in now. So non-video game stuff is going to start competing a bit more. I've got a little bit of a vacation up on the horizon, so got that kind of in the back of my mind. But it's probably going to be a couple of weeks where Rainbow Six, maybe Sea of Thieves if I can grab some crewmates, I guess, and a couple games like that to kind of fill the void. So kind of half watching stuff, half playing some games that I can pop in, play for 10 minutes, 15-minute match, something like that, and pop back out. So it's a lot more important to not have these like 8-hour marathon sessions of building kingdoms and shooting rednecks and whatever else I'm doing lately. So, those little multiplayer games are probably going to fill in the void for now until old God of War shows up.
Sweet. Can't wait for next week where we're like, Fortnite and Rainbow Six Siege. It'll be great and original. All right, that's it for this episode of the Press X Podcast. Thank you for watching and thank you for being here, Nick.
Of course.
And we will speak with you next time.